All right, everyone. Welcome to Racing Nation. This is Sean Yoder. I've got Kenton Koch in the studio with us tonight, and Kenton and I are going to get into some of his background and some of the places he's been racing over the years. We're going to take you all the way up to the 24 Hours of Daytona this year and the things that him and JDC Miller Motorsports did there. That team did some spectacular things in the 24 Hours of Daytona this year. And then on to Sebring, which is happening next week. And we're going to just basically pick his brain and see where he's been, let you guys know where he's been, and also talk about where he's going. So, Kenton, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, man. It's always cool to do things like this.
I'm glad you could make it. Let's start off with where you've come from. Just let the folks out there in Racing Nation land know exactly who Kenton Koch is. I picked you up when you started following you, basically, when you started running the Gumby car. That was it was one of the best things I've ever seen on a racetrack. When was the Gumby car era, just out of curiosity? I can't remember how long that goes back.
The Gumby car era was in 2014, and that was a huge hit. It was actually just for one race. It was a little promotion we were doing. It was something called Gumby Fest. Yeah. And I live in Glendora, and I don't know if you know this, but the Koch studios that they made the stop motion videos were actually in Glendora. So this is a home of Gumby. So we promoted the event at Mazda Raceway, and we got the car all stickered up. I got a green suit, and me being 6'4", it was pretty hilarious because I was actually bigger than Gumby, and we had a Gumby suit, a guy in a Gumby suit, or not guy in a Gumby suit, but we had Gumby there, and a bunch of other things. It was a lot of fun, and I mean, obviously the racing goes before that a long ways, but that was a cool promotion we did, and it got a lot of press, and it was just a great fun event that we did.
It had to have garnered you a lot of fans because I knew who you were as far back as 2012 when you were running, I believe you were running Skip Barber, and you were the Mazda Speed Challenge champion back in 2012, and you had a ludicrous amount of wins back then. It was like, what was it, 15, 16, 17 wins that season in Mazda Speed Challenge? It was.
I feel like you have this written down or something.
I totally don't have it written. I've got some notes, but I don't have that written down, man. I've been following racing. Like I said, I'm an old guy. I've been following racing for a long time. When I'm not in the car, I'm paying attention to people who are up and coming. And
I appreciate you paying attention to me, even when I was a little winky in 2012. Coming in my first steps in the cars, that's cool. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, you've won. What have you won? A couple Mazda Speed Championships. I know in 2014, did you, with the Gumby car and all that stuff, you won MX5 Cup that year, correct? And that got you in IMSA Lights, from what I remember.
Yeah, that's right. And I went from MX5 Cup to Lights, and that was a huge jump considering, going from basically a car that tops out at 120. Yeah, it gets around a corner really good. But going from that to a Lights car, which is basically faster than an LMP2 car around the corner. So it was an insane jump, but it was that IMSA Lights car is the most fun car I've ever driven. That car is awesome.
It weighs about as much as a cell phone and has the downforce of an Indy car, basically, and something along those lines.
Yeah, but it has the power of an MX5, so it doesn't have the power to back it. But
true. But like you said, it goes around corners like it's a go-kart.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Good stuff. Definitely good stuff. And then 2015 IMSA Lights champion, correct?
Yep, yeah, that's right. And that season went really good as well. We won all of them except for two, and I was bummed about the two. It could have gone better, but it was two. Yeah.
Could have gone better.
It was a fun. Could have gone better. It could have gone better. I always could have gone better. I'm the. I like to say I'm the hardest person on me. So it's definitely one of those things where, you know, something happens, no one can be harder on myself. So
that's a good way to be. I mean, that way you're always progressing. I mean, I've been racing since I was 4 years old, and every time I go to the track, I try to find something new, man. I try to find something to keep me sharp, and we never totally get it right, do we? I mean, that's kind of what makes racing fun for me. I don't know if it's the same for you or not, but that pursuit of perfection kind of thing.
No, like you hit the nail on the head there. That's the thing is about racing. It's like you have to live, eat, and breathe racing in order to be, you know, good at it. And you know what it's like when you are like into racing as much as we are. You know, you're at work, you're at school or whatever have you, you're thinking about racing nonstop, and any ways that you could think of making the car better or making yourself better, making, you know, things that you can do better just to be better in the car. You know, people think like when you're out of the car, it's like, well, okay, now you're out of the car, you know, live life.
Yeah, now you're out of the car, go ahead and shut it down, and it just doesn't work that way.
No, you live, eat, and breathe it.
It's good to know that you're doing that. And if you don't mind me asking, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but how long have you been racing? Because you've got the talent of someone that's been doing it for a long, long time, and that's very obvious in the championships that you've won. But how long have you been behind the wheel? Did you start in karts really young, or did you come to it later in life?
Yeah, no, I started when I was 8 years old, 12 years ago. So I've been doing it for a little while now. I'm 21. And, you know, things have been going really well in the past few years. And, you know, if you would have asked me 5 years ago if I were to be here right now, I would definitely be laughing at you because, you know, I came from karts in 2011 thinking that, you know, coming from karts into Skip Barber through their karting shootout, I was like, well, this is just, you know, a way for me to, you know, maybe get some more experience and have fun, but, you know, once the scholarship runs up or, you know, dries up, that's it. Like, we don't have any more money, and I don't know if you know this, but we don't come from money. You know, the only way I've been able to progress to, you know, the 24 Hours Daytona is all on scholarship, and that's from Mazda and Skip Barber.
Right.
You know, thankfully, I've won consecutive championships to be able to make my way up the ladder, so I didn't have to pay to fund my own year. So I've been lucky enough to, you know, progress up the ladder to this point. So, you know, things have definitely gone good. But yeah, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, I would have thought you're crazy.
Yeah, 5 years. If I'd have come to you 5 years ago and said, "Hey, go ahead and try that Rolex on, because one day you're gonna have one."
If you would have asked me that like 3 months ago, you know, 2 weeks before the race, I still would have thought you're crazy, because just the magnitude of that and is just insane. 3 years ago, when we went on a vacation, we went to a store, a watch store, and obviously I was deep into racing 3 years ago, and I always wanted, like, my goal was to win a Rolex. And so we went into the watch store, and I saw that they had a Rolex Daytona. I was like, oh, I have to just try it on.
Right.
So, you know, I tried it on, and I took a picture of it and posted it on Instagram. And then, you know, after we won the 24 Hours Daytona in January, my girlfriend tagged me in that picture from 3 years ago, and was like, hey, remember that?
That's awesome.
I was like, yeah, actually, I would have. That's just insane. So I'm still blown away, and I look at it now, and I'm like, this is just a reminder of all the hard work and determination, and it's a thing that humbles you, because it's not a lot of people get this, and to be on that short list of people who have gotten one is extremely humbling. And you know, it might make, to some people, it might make their heads bigger, but to me it makes it smaller, because it's pretty important to stay grounded in a situation like this.
It could go the other direction, and I can hear it in your voice, though. Like, I know you've probably talked about this 18 to 20,000 times since the end of the 24 hours, and you can still hear in your voice how much it means to you. and that's a special thing. Like I heard some people talking a while ago. There was a Rolex Daytona that was actually it was a race, a race win watch that was for sale. I can't remember where it was for sale, and somebody was talking about buying it. And yeah, can you imagine that? Can you imagine winning that race and then letting that go? But it was for sale, and people were talking about buying it, and I was like, how could you possibly live with yourself buying one of those watches? That's a watch that you earn. Yeah, It blew me away. It really did blow me away. I'd never seen one of those for sale before, and I hope, quite honestly, I never see one for sale again.
Yeah, and the fact that, someone is selling it is, they probably have 4 or 5, and, it just doesn't mean anything to them now. And I don't know who that could be, whatever. Anyways, the fact of the matter is, I see people out there that have won the race, and they still don't wear their watch. I'm like, I'm wearing this thing every day of my life.
Absolutely.
This is the fact of it's like something that you cherish, and it's like I said, it's a reminder, and it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's the face value of a watch is $12,000, and it's insane, and I can't believe I'm wearing this much money on my wrist right now. And every time I walk through a door, I put my left arm behind my back so I don't smack it on the door.
Right.
It's not to say I'm not careful, but it's something that you should wear every day and cherish.
I think so too. I'd sleep with it, and then once you get your Le Mans trophy, you turn that into a necklace.
What I'm going to do is if I happen to get another Rolex, I'm giving this one to my dad, and then if I get another one, then I'll give that one to the next family member. So I've heard of this. This is something that Andy Lally has done, and I respect him a lot for that. And it made me think about thinking that. And the thing is, I shouldn't even be thinking this right now, because the fact of the matter is that's insane just to think about getting a second one. Like that's crazy. So right now I'm going to focus on doing what I can do to be able to get to that point. So obviously it's not going to fall in my lap, and I have to work my butt off to get to that.
And you've been doing that. And at 21 years of age, the fact that you've already got the 24 under your belt, it speaks volumes, man. It speaks volumes to your talent level. It's very impressive. And I know you're very humble, but I'm going to go ahead and compliment you. It's been a very impressive run over the last 4, 5, 6 years. And let's move on to Sebring, and let's hope that that continues through Sebring. So I want to talk to you a little bit about Sebring prep and what JDC Miller Motorsports does and what you do to get ready for the 12 hours of Sebring. And actually, if we can make some comparisons between Sebring and Daytona, I'd love to get your take on what makes those races similar and what are the massive differences. I know you take 12 hours away when you go to Sebring versus Daytona, but just the track surface itself at Sebring is punishing. So what are you doing to get ready for that race? What's the team doing, and what are the expectations going in?
Well, definitely expectations are high, obviously. We want to finish in the top 3. Obviously, we want to win. But the thing is, there's a lot of good guys out there, and we're still the underdog team. We found a good setup at Daytona, and we ended up being quick. But Sebring's a different ball game, like you said. It's obviously a bit more brutal, but it's not exactly comparing apples to apples. Daytona is very high speed on the banking, and you got a couple hairpin corners, and that's about it.
Right.
So you trim the thing out as much as possible, and you just struggle through the infield just trying to get off the corners, and then you go to Sebring and you crank all the wing back in it, you soften it up, you try to get over the bumps, you try to get through the corners, and it's much more brutal. It's a 12-hour race, but the track is much more brutal, so it's basically like running a 24-hour race because of how brutal it is on the car. But on the drivers, yes, it's more physical too, but when you take away 12 hours, it's nice because you don't have to drive through the night.
Right.
That's something that caught me out at the 24 is, I got out of the car at 12:30 in the morning, and then had to jump back in it at 5 a.m.
Right.
And I didn't get a chance to sleep, so I was drained, and I made a mistake and cost the team a few laps. But that's obviously that was disappointing. But I wasn't prepared for that. I wasn't experienced and didn't find a place to sleep. So if I would have gotten 2 hours of sleep, that would have been nice. But
right.
The 12 hours of Sebring is going to be nicer because of that. But obviously, when you're in the car, you're going to get beat up quite a bit more. So physically, you got to be ready, and mentally, it's a little less. Actually, sorry, no. If I think about it now, Sebring is a little bit more mentally exhausting because of the fact that it's it's not as well lit at night, and you're going to be coming up on traffic, and it's going to be much more difficult to get through traffic because there's not as many straightaways, and there's a lot more corners, and you're going to have to take a bit more risk to try to get by guys. Whereas Daytona, you had a big old straightaway, and each hairpin was had a pretty large straightaway in between them to be able to get down the inside, and making passes and stuff in traffic was kind of a no-brainer. Whereas Sebring, you have a lot of transitions, lefts, rights. You don't know where people are going to be going, and like I said, it's not going to be as well lit, so people are going to be turning in on people, and lights are going to be in your eyes, and you might not be able to see apexes. So
right.
Mentally more exhausting, but more physical. But it's nice not to have to do the other 12 hours.
I hear you. Had you ever done a 24 before you ran Daytona? Had you ever done any racing into the night before?
I did. I did the 25 hours of Thunderhill on a Mazda 2.
Okay.
So I was looking out the back more than I was looking out the front.
Right.
So it was quite an experience. But yeah, I have done that before, but I didn't get the chance to run through the wee hours of the morning. From 1 to 5. I was able to get out at 9 p.m. and then get back in at 9 a.m.
Right.
It was nice, but it wasn't as hard.
I would imagine the ride quality of an LMPC car versus a Mazda 2 might be a little bit different too.
Yeah, it's much more comfortable, that's for sure. There's much more room. Since I'm a tall guy, like I mentioned earlier, I got to fit into a car that people are 6 foot tall and below. So, my knees are in the tub. So
right.
my knees are up, and I actually have to wear knee pads because if not, I would have blood dripping down my knees. So yeah, it's brutal. And at Sebring, at the test, I realized I was like, holy crap, I got to figure something out with my knee pads because my knee pads are a little too thick. And I need to find a way to get them thinner so I don't bruise my knees from being in the car for well over 2 hours.
All I can say, man, is good luck. Best of luck at Sebring. Your run at Daytona was inspiring. I can't wait to see what JDC Miller Motorsports does at the 12 hours. Just out of curiosity, after Sebring, what are your plans? Where can we find you for the rest of 2016?
That's a great question. That's a really good question. I wish I could tell you, but I'm working my butt off to try to find something, and obviously I would want to continue with JDC Miller Motorsports for the rest of the season, but sadly that one car that they're running already has both the seats filled up, so if I were to run, I would need to come up with funding to be able to put together another car, so to run with them. Which to say isn't out of the question because there's things behind the scenes that can make that happen. But as far as getting a car goes, but obviously it has to be funded, and it's a bummer that something hasn't come together yet. But all hope is not lost. I might not be in the car for Long Beach or Mazda Raceway, but maybe something after that. Because obviously Long Beach and Mazda Raceway are coming up pretty quick, and to be able to prep a car and get it ready is going to be a tall order. So if I'm gonna make an effort, I want to make it a good one, so I could show my capabilities. I don't want to do a half-assed job and be the kid like, oh well, he was okay, so so
Yeah,
we don't really want him. You know what I mean?
a lot of people don't understand that aspect of the level of motorsport that you're running in right now. It's you literally have to stay at the top of the chart, the top of your game, or it does become that. I mean, people stop paying attention a little bit if you start falling down the grid. I totally get what you're saying, man, and I wish you nothing but the best of luck. As far as Sebring and the 12 hours ago, I hope to see you back, at least back on the podium again, if not the top step. Before we wrap this thing up, I always like to give our guests a chance to thank anyone that's helped them along the path to where they are right now and that 24 hours win. So if you took a few moments just to thank the folks that have allowed you to get where you're at right now, go ahead and take that time, man. It's definitely you owe it to them.
I appreciate it, and there's one story and that one thing that meant a lot to me. Winning Daytona was I was able to have my mom there. I don't know if you know this, but she was recently a recipient of a heart a little over a year ago, just before Daytona 2015. So now to have her and at the race in 2016 with a new heart meant a lot, and with that transition of her getting a new heart, we wanted to try to help others, get, their organs, because the thing is, there's not a lot of organ donors out there, and there's a lot of people on the waiting list,
right,
in hospitals, waiting for organs. So we're trying to promote organ donation, and we're doing that by partnering through Donate Life America. And we were able to, spread that a little bit on the interview over the broadcast on Fox, and it was a cool interview. I felt it kind of captured the emotion perfectly. So that's something we're trying to promote is Donate Life. I'll keep the others short. I just wanted to tell that story because it meant a lot to me.
You don't have to keep anything short. This is your time, man. Do what you got to do.
But I also want to thank Mazda Motorsports for them helping me all the way up the ladder system. They've single-handedly given me, I think, a little over $500,000 to run, over the past 4 years, and also Justice Brothers for helping me out with, all the liquids and cleaners that they gave to Justice Brothers, and the Skip Barber as well, and like I said, Donate Life. And there's so many people that have helped me out along the way that I just want to thank. And it's been a journey, and I couldn't do it without my supporters.
You've got a lot of them out there. And we'll definitely be following you along in 2016. Again, best of luck at the Sebring 12 Hours. The Racing Nation, for the Racing Nation, this is Sean Yoder. We've been with Kenton Koch this evening. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Kenton, for the time. We greatly appreciate it. I know you've got a lot on your plate right now leading up to Sebring, so I'm going to return you to your evening already in progress. And, again, best of luck, man.
Thank you very much, and thank you for pronouncing my last name right.
I do my best. Thanks, Kenton, man. We'll talk soon. Hopefully we'll talk to you after Sebring with another win.
For sure.
Night.